Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to see so many of you here after lunch, and I hope you have enjoyed that and enjoyed the previous panel. What we'd like to do now is further speak to the rock stars that exist within the community that are here to support the work that you do. I think it's been said pretty eloquently throughout the day that we are thoroughly appreciative of the work that you guys do every day. But we want you to know that there is a support system out there, that you're not doing this work alone, and we just wanted to introduce some people who might spark some interest in you into making some more community partnerships that will further the work that we all do every day.
Yeah, I agree with Gideon, and good afternoon, and thank you for everything that you do. We are just so grateful to be partnering with so many wonderful champions for our children. And I'm not going to rap, so you are really lucky, although Gideon said he wanted to, so maybe later. But we're going to start. Our panelists are just amazing people, and we're going to start with the furthest panelists right now. We're going to go through all the names, actually. Dr. Amber Baker is the principal at Kimberly Park Elementary School in Winston-Salem, and she is also president and principal consultant for Beyond Expectations Education Group. She is also a committee member on the Childhood Hunger Programs Committee for Second Harvest Food Bank. So she is an amazing lady, and we're thrilled to have her here today. Next to her is Mr. Roderick Howard. And I have to tell you about Roderick. He started his work with the YMCA in the summer of 2008 as a summer camp counselor, after-school site supervisor at the Kernersville Family YMCA, also in Winston-Salem. But now he is the executive director of Child Care Services Branch. And kudos to them because they had the first summer program. They partnered with us way back in 2010. So thank you for being here, Roderick.
Next to Roderick, we have Thaddeus Sherman. Thaddeus Sherman is currently serving in his second year as the principal of Rolesville Middle School in Rolesville, North Carolina. Rolesville Middle School serves as one of the newest pantries available to students in Wake County Public School Systems, and is indeed one of the schools that Jessica Holmes spoke about earlier on this morning. This newest pantry is available to students and offers perishable and non-perishable items to families in the eastern area of Wake County. We then have Miss Ophelia Grimes, who is better known to the food bank and all of the people that we serve through the summer as the food lady. After retiring as a teacher, Ophelia attended culinary school and opened her own catering business in Mount Olive, called the Food Lady. She now caters lunches for schools, weddings and churches, and for the food bank provides foods for our summer food service program and also for our at-risk after-school CACFP program. Erlene Rivers, sitting next to Miss Grimes, is our next panelist and is passionate about providing opportunities and experience for kids in rural Duplin County. She's the Executive Director of Diversity Nurtures Achievement, which we better know as a DNA, Community Youth Center, which opened in 2014 with the support of grants and donations and with the assistance of her family. Erlene runs one of our kids' cafes, our at-risk after-school programs, where she provides them not only with fun and food, but also with academic support, and that homework with Erlene, I'm afraid, for the kids always comes first.
And completing this amazing panel is Dr. Robert Schwartz. We affectionately call him Dr. Bob at the food bank, and he is Professor Emeritus of Pediatrics at Wake Forest School of Medicine in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. His research interest has been in the area of childhood obesity prevention. Among his work since retiring from clinical practice in 2011, although I told him you never retire if you're a doctor, Dr. Schwartz has been co-director for Moore Magnet School Food Pantry in Winston-Salem. Let's welcome all our panelists.
In the interests of brevity and because of the huge difference in some of the heights of some of our panelists, we're going to ask them to speak from the table, and they are going to be giving you an overview of their work in the community. And we're going to start in the order that we presented. Dr. Ember.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry, we deal with children all day long. We are used to energy after lunch. Good afternoon, everyone. That's better, thank you. Now, I don't know what these little shades were for on the table, but I need everybody to get their shades. Put your shades on, put your shades on. Everybody put your shades on. Now, don't you feel cooler already? Well, guess what? That's what you have to do when you engage in this work. You got to get your swag on. You got to get your attitude, you know, because when we start talking about childhood hunger, you know, people tend to tune out on us. So one of the things that I am encouraging you to do, which we do at Kimberly Park, is we're the disruptors, if you haven't figured that out already. And so when I got to Kimberly Park 10 years ago, the school in which I've been a principal for 10 years, we were 100% minority and 100% of our students received free and reduced lunch. And almost immediately, I reached out to the food bank to say, how do we get a backpack program in our school? And, you know, we had a hard time finding a sponsor, but I would not stop. So I encourage you not to stop. We had to be the disruptors. We had to keep fighting. We had to keep making it known to the people in the community that there was a need. You know, pop up everywhere with your shades on. It's gonna be hard for people to tell you no with your shades on. But as we just continue to go into places and to explain to people, particularly if your story does not include hunger in your childhood. And so a lot of times you're going to encounter people who have not experienced that. So they don't necessarily know that we do have children that go hungry through no fault of their own. And so help them to understand, you know, share a little bit of your story, but in sharing your story, also help them to understand that children are they're not the breadwinners of their homes. They're not the people that make decisions about, do we choose bills over food? Do we choose paying the rent over buying groceries this week? They don't get to do that. And so again, if your story does not include that, then make sure that the people you're talking to understand that. I often share with people, you know, when I grew up, and I know I look like I'm just a mere lad, the difference between then and now is we had dinner hour. So how many of you in the room grew up at a time where you had dinner hour? Somewhere between 5:30 and 6 every day, right? So you see me now, but I experienced childhood hunger. And I figured out very quickly, if I strategically place myself at people's houses between 5:30 and 6, they're gonna invite you to stay at dinner. And if you had a big enough friend circle, you didn't have to circle back to that first round of people in the first week until maybe 2 weeks later, so they couldn't figure out that you were always at their house for dinner. So I know that we don't have a lot of time, but what I want to say to you is disrupt the conversation, right? Be the most powerful advocate in the room. You know, go boldly to say to people, you know what, I'm here and I'm not leaving until you hear my story. So working with Daisy and the food bank, you know, it took us 3 years to find a sponsor. And we have moved from servicing 50 kids, and again, remember I told you we're 100% minority, 100% free and reduced. So that means every child in our building could probably benefit from having meals on the weekend. And so now we're up to servicing just under a third of our population of children. And so that doesn't just happen. That's where you're knocking down doors. That's where you're thinking outside the box when you're talking to your sponsors and you're talking to people about how to get this done. Because all they see is $10,000, and that's too much. And the church that sponsors us is a very small church. But you begin to think creatively about, how do we raise this money? How do we pull other churches in to partner with your sponsor? You know, how do you have a raffle to raise money? How do you do different things within the community and asking people to donate? So again, what I would encourage you to do, and I'm not sure, they didn't give me any directions on really what I was supposed to do, and I don't follow rules too well anyway. I just want to encourage you to go with your attitude and your cool shades, disrupt the conversation, and once you disrupt the conversation, make sure you have a clear narrative that people will walk away with something tangible to think about and a reason to continue to support you in this work. Thank you. Yes.
That was a tough act to follow. I don't have any great jokes. I'm actually a little sleepy after that great meal. So thank you to the sponsors. But as Daisy stated before, the YMCA was the first site to receive meals during our summer camp. I'm pretty sure a lot of you all in the room don't see the YMCA as a place that feeds kids. A lot of people see Y as a place to go swimming, as a place to go play basketball, as a place to work out, but we're the leading child care provider in the nation, and with that responsibility comes a lot of hungry children. Children in our communities come from varying backgrounds, and as we know, hunger does not care if you are black, white, gay, straight, big, little. Hunger is hunger. And a lot of the kids in our programs come to us in after school, in summer camp, hungry. Dr. Baker here can attest, some kids eat lunch at 10:30 in the morning, so when they come to after school, they're hungry. So that's our first priority, is to feed those kids when they come to us. And in some circumstances, kids don't get dinner when they go home. So that's another priority of ours, is to feed those kids before they go home. We are a part of a national movement. Our national president and CEO, Kevin Washington, makes this a priority for WISE, that we feed those kids. So I'm excited that we have great partners like the Food Bank. We have great partners like the Winston-Salem South County School System. We have great partners like Brenner Fit and through the Baptist Hospital that help us make feeding hungry children possible. So I'm excited to be here. If you have YMCAs in your communities that you don't work with now, I would figure out how to get in contact with those folks, because I'm pretty sure that they are running food programs in your communities. We have some Y folks here from Asheville, Corey Jackson in the background. We have our wonderful friends to my left with the Second Harvest Food Bank. As you see all the awesome kids here having fun with food, we try to make eating fun, but we also like to introduce kids to new things at the Y. So if you want to follow us, you can follow a lot of our food programs on Twitter with the hashtag the Y Feeds Kids. So thank you guys so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here, and it's the first time I've been able to be here, so I will tell you, I had no idea what to expect. So sitting up here in front of all of you is, I'm glad I didn't know, honestly. It makes it a little easier. Yeah. Fortunately, I had some time this morning to be able to jot some things down. Oftentimes I can sort of go on the fly, but this is too important to do that. So I want to just share sort of the story of our pantry. We just opened this fall, and I was approached by a district official, and Jessica Holmes, who was here this morning, Wake County Commissioner. This all started from her efforts. And the Wake County Commissioners actually have dedicated money to all 10 of the school pantries in Wake County Public Schools this year, which was a great way to start our effort. So when they came to me to ask if this was something we would be interested in being a part of, I said yes, like right away. She didn't tell me anything else. I just said yes. And then after I said that and I was driving home, I thought, well, I don't know what that really means, and I don't know what to expect, sort of like today. But I was okay with that. And I'll just share two quick reasons as far as why I said yes right away. The first is my own personal experience of standing in line with my mother, holding her hand as we waited in line every couple weeks. When I was younger, that's a memory that will always be with me and has motivated me to do the work that we're doing at my school. And the second is because of equity. No student, regardless of their circumstance, deserves to go hungry. And there are inequities all over our country today. We see it daily. And to use her words, you've got to see it, you've got to understand it, and you've got to disrupt it. That's what we need all of us to do. And I've heard great things today and am seeing that happen. There are a lot of common themes that have come out today, and you'll probably hear some of those from some of the things that I'll be sharing. As Gideon said, we are a perishable and non-perishable pantry, which we're really thankful for, to be able to offer some different things than you might see in a traditional pantry. With that comes the need for equipment. We needed refrigerators, we needed freezers, and the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina said, you know, we'll take care of that. We've got a budget, we can do that. And I said, well, let's hold off and let me see what we might be able to do. And so again, the gentleman from Orange County, marketing is so important. And I'm a big Twitter person. If you want to follow me, I'm at RMS Principal 07. Just a little plug. But you'll get to see all of these pictures as well. But I do believe strongly in the power of marketing. And so I put it out there. Our parents are aware of our pantry. In 2 weeks, I had 2 refrigerators delivered by parents to my school and placed in the room. And that meant that money that we would have spent on refrigerators went to food. So there is power in marketing and tapping into your community and your resources. Speaking of tapping into your community resources, you know, with the food pantry, I didn't know this until I started, but you place an order. They give you a list of all of the items available. My social worker, who is the main person in charge of our pantry, she's out on maternity leave right now, so sort of my job for a little while. But we made this big order, and it was delivered, and it was amazing, and we got everything shelved and organized. But the greatest thing that has happened are the efforts of people in our community who have contacted me and said, we want to do a drive. What can we do? How can we help? And again, I think it in part goes to that marketing piece. One of our biggest providers has actually been our elementary feeder school, Roseville Elementary. They've done 2 drives now. And one of the things that is really special about the drives is that they are bringing in what I would say are non-traditional items or high-interest items, right? Somebody talked earlier about going into a pantry and, you know, there's peanut butter and there's carrots and there's green beans and there's pasta, and all of those things are great. They are amazing resources. But how great is it for parents and kids to be able to come in and get some fruit chews or some crackers, you know, the little packaged crackers. There are so many things in our pantry right now that I would have never expected to be in there, and it's been a huge positive aspect of our pantry, and we're getting ready to receive another donation from them. So one of the things, as you can see in some of the pictures, when we're getting so many items, trying to keep up with that, shelve and stock and replenish and all that has been hard. So we've tapped into one of our extracurricular clubs, our Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It's overseen by one of our teachers, and they actually come every Wednesday. They've made this their service and their mission. They come every Wednesday during our club time to restock, replenish, break down boxes, and make sure that it looks as wonderfully as it can so that when families come in, they can access that. One thing also about our pantry from a logistics standpoint, just a few logistics in terms of if anyone's opening a pantry or has one now. We were fortunate enough to have a big space to be able to do that. So we've got an entire classroom. We're fortunate enough to have some school shelving, those types of things to be able to put in there. But one of the things that was really important to me when we were thinking about location was I wanted it to be near the front of the school. I want to preserve the dignity of these families. They don't need to go traipsing through the school to get to a pantry. And sometimes that may not be possible, but I would encourage you, if there's any way to locate your pantry closest to your entrance, it just is a way to preserve their dignity and let them to be able to get in and out quietly and without notice. We do have set hours, 2 days a week for 2 to 3 hours at a time. But we've made it clear to our partners, our other schools, that we are available at any given notice. So I won't bore you with the specifics of the process and all of that, but we are open and a resource for any family in the entire district who have students in our district. And if you check out our school, if you check out Roseville Middle School, you're probably going to see that our middle school is more of a middle to sometimes upper class school. And so some of the questions I get is, well, why is the pantry at your school? There's a couple reasons for that. Eastern Wake County is the highest needs area of Wake County Public Schools, but we're fortunate in that our school is centrally located within Eastern Wake County, so no one has to travel too far to get to us. Oftentimes, other school social workers and counselors will come to us, we'll load them up, and then they can take that back to their school to give it to families. Or one of the things we do is actually add stock to the Backpack Buddies programs. So we add additional items to that. And let me look at my notes because I'm getting off track. But again, when you look at our school, we are about 25% F&R, which is about 1 in 4 students, which is about the rate across our state that 1 in 4 students are food insecure. So we still have a need at our school, but we're able to support all of Eastern Wake County. The other thing about us is that we're a year-round school. So for district officials who may be in the room, if you have any schools who are year-round schools, that may be something to consider. We're open and available all year. And there was some talk about putting it at the high school, but on a traditional calendar, it makes it a little more difficult to staff in the summer, and so it limits that resource. And the final thing, I know I'm probably going too long, the final thing I want to just say that I'm really, really proud of is food insecure families have a lot of other needs. It's not just food, right? And some of those needs actually end up being more costly than potentially what food can be. And so we had this idea when we were first opening our pantry that at some point we wanted to have a personal hygiene section of our pantry. And it was sort of just this vision I had and said, well, let's get things going first and we'll come back to that. But I'd put it out there to see if anyone was interested. And we had a parent who took it over and ran with it, and it was amazing. And we did a Super Bowl of caring. I had to dress up as an Eagles fan, which I'm not. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I don't have much to root for these days. We did make the playoffs for the first time in 15 years, but nonetheless, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to support our pantry efforts. But we had hundreds of items donated, and I think at some point there was, well, there you go. Toothpaste, toothbrush, soaps, conditioner, shampoo, mouthwash, feminine products, just the list goes on. And so when parents and families come in, it's not just about food anymore. It's about meeting even some more of those basic needs. So I'm really proud of that part. And I guess what I'll leave you with is those who work with me, those who know me, will tell you that I lead with this motto. My decisions as a school principal and as a school leader is that every decision I make will be guided by doing what's right for kids, always and forever. And I have to remind people sometimes that that doesn't necessarily jive with what's easiest for you as the adult or the teacher. And I will live by that as long as I live, and that I will use that to guide my work. So that's all. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all and share today.
Good evening. It's okay if you talked a little long. That means that I won't have much time to talk. I am a caterer. I have been catering for the last couple of years. Prior to catering, as Gillian has said, I was doing other things. And when I moved back to North Carolina, I decided that I would do catering. So I started doing that. And for somehow, I don't remember quite how it went, but Gillian got my name and information from somewhere. And when he asked me about providing meals to these after-school programs and different things, my first thought was, after he explained it, he made it sound so glamorous, you know. I said, sure, you know, I'll do that. Wow, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I do enjoy it. I guess I'm a cook by trade. My mom was a dietitian, and I'd lived with food all of my life. She has, you know, I was the oldest child of the 8. So, of course, you know how it is. The oldest have to learn to do things that the younger ones get away with. So I had to learn how to cook and you know, make different things. When she was working, I would do the cooking. Had no idea it would lead me to culinary school. But it did. And when I finished culinary school, I really did enjoy it. And I thought, well, what would I do now? Just what will I do? So I began catering funerals and dinner meals and weddings and all of those kinds of things. But then when I started doing catering for the children, it was different. Children, of course, you know, they don't like the same thing that we like, you know, the adults. They're not always interested in the greens and the vegetables, and they just like the sweet things and the things that taste good. But in culinary school, I learned that you can make any vegetable taste good if you just add certain ingredients to it. So I thought, well, I'll try it. Can't hurt. So I began to cook and fix things and get it, you know, I was getting it to the children, you know, on time, and it was healthy. My menus were always, you know, looked at, I guess, and approved. They didn't tell me any different, so I kept doing it. Well, this year I am providing for 2 after-school programs, and one of them is DNA, which you're going to hear from her in a few minutes, and the other one is another after-school program that I just started in January. Well, the children always wait at the door waiting for you to drive up, and they help you get the stuff out, and you take it in, and, you know, it's counted, and all the procedures that we have to go through, you know, is done. Well, from time to time, they would say, this was good, and then from time to time, they would say, you know, my mama didn't cook her beans like that. What did you do to yours? Or from time to time, they would say, when are you going to fix some more of that? So I have a passion, I guess, for children. Like I said, I was the oldest, so I babysat a lot, too. So, you know, I like to do for children as much as I can. So when it was time to do the proportions, they would say, wow, you give them a lot of food. But then I got to thinking, I said, well, the reason why I try to do more is because some of these children won't get anything else until tomorrow morning when they get back to school. So it became very apparent that the kids liked it. Now I'm going to venture into a new area. I noticed, well, I was told and noticed that one of the people that I catered meals to have a garden. And so I told the children that I would cook some of their vegetables. And of course, you know, being in a rural area as we are, they said, well, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. Or I said, well, just give me a chance. So what I envision and hope to do, if I can get this approved, is to have some of them help me in the kitchen to prepare some of the vegetables. I thought that it would be a teaching moment for them, and they would take pride and ownership into it. So that is, you know, that's really my future goal. But as far as the children, I've grown to love them after I deliver the food and we finish that business part of it. A lot of days I will help them, the children, with their homework, you know, and reading to them or pronouncing words, you know. I would stay and just help out. And I've grown to love it. I've grown to love the children. I've grown to love the catering to their meals. And, you know, they just make you feel so welcome when you go. And then when you see parents out in the store and they say, Mama, that's that lady, that's the food lady, she's the one that fixed so-and-so, then that makes it all worth it. So even though I'm new to this industry and the first time ever to this conference or ever hearing of this conference, I have enjoyed today, and I'm taking away some good things, some things I will be asking Mercedes about, trying to see if she would be interested in helping me put together. But I really have enjoyed it, and I thank you all very much for listening to me, and may God bless you.
Good afternoon. My name is Earlene Rivers. I bring you greetings from DNA Community Youth Center, DNA. One of our main goals was to assist youth in either finding their DNA or reclaiming it. I've worked in the public school, and I see that with our help, we can make a difference. And if we pretend that children don't have issues, makes no difference. The reason behind that is they do have issues. If we ignore it, think about it, those kids are the future. So we are here, and I'm here to make the difference in those lives. This is my food lady. Not only is she the food lady bringing us physical food, she has become a partner. The kids love her. I love her. With her being in Warsaw in rural Dupin County, it's making a difference. And as I go daily and become involved with different people, I introduce her to them. You know, they ask me, well, who's bringing you your food? The food lady. So with that partnership, along with the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, we are making a difference in the youth served. Not only are we providing a meal for them on a daily basis, we're providing enrichments. We do have the garden, hopefully, that she's referencing to. Along with some of the partners that are here, I didn't realize it until I got here. I kept looking around. I said, the circle that I'm in apparently is working, because I see a lot of the same faces, plus some of my Duplin County people back there, some of the same faces that I see at a lot of the other meetings that I attend to. And like I said, not only are we providing meals on a daily basis, when Hurricane Matthew came, I looked at TV, I kept hearing other counties, you know, I'm laying there. What about Duplin County? Our kids could not even go to school, so if they couldn't go to school, that means they weren't getting a meal. So I was at a workshop that night with now Governor Roy Cooper. I don't like to have my phone on, but I'm on my phone. The food bank people calling me on up to about 8 and 9 o'clock that night. Before I left that workshop, the food bank had agreed that if I utilized the food that I already had on hand to feed my neighbors, they would make sure that I had food and would get some more. I think that was a Thursday, and by that Saturday morning, the food bank bought a truckload of food, water, and other supplies. Myself, along with my volunteers and Duplin County School System, we distributed over 1,500 meals during the time that they were out of school. And also, one of my youth this week, she heard Miss Ophelia and I talking about that we were going to the conference. So she kept fishing around. Her next question, she's a kindergartner. Well, who's gonna bring us our food? So that tells me that they really, I mean, we have a bay window in our kitchen, and the youth, when they know, they look at the clock. Every now and then you see one of them looking out the window. They are really waiting for that meal. I know breakfast is that most important meal to start the day, but no child should go to bed hungry either. Thank you.
I'm Bob Swartz, semi-retired pediatrician and endocrinologist. And when we were introduced by our moderator, he mentioned that we weren't going to be over there because for expediency and also for size discrepancy, so maybe I should stand up here. You know, when we would travel and we're in the airports and they would call for parents with small children, my kids would respond, "What about children with small parents?" So I want to talk to you about school food pantries. And I knew I wanted to do something when I sort of semi-retired, and we were thinking of backpack programs and all, and the food bank suggested that maybe we do a food pantry. Now, there are over 50 food pantries in Forsyth County, but there were no school food pantries, which is what we decided to do. And we did that to address childhood hunger and food insecurity in our environment in our county. We started this in October 2013, so we're now in our 4th year. And we have our pantry is located at the church, the temple where I belong, and the Presbyterian Church next door. We're partners, and it's located there. But it can be either on campus at the school or off campus. It's whatever works for the project. Eligibility is really through self-identification. We have a little short note that tells about the pantry that's sent to all the parents at the school. And then if we ask if they need help with food, with healthy food, they respond to the school counselor. They send that little note back, say yes, they're interested. The school counselor then sends them another note with information where we're located and what we do. And we're 3/10 of a mile from the school. You just go down the hill, you turn left on Magnolia, and you're there. We have signs out. Also, at any time during the year, if teachers or anyone at school identifies a child who might be hungry, then that also is a refer. So the counselor gets in touch with me, and then we contact the family. We actually have reminders. We send an email the Friday before, and then we call them on the Monday before the pantry. It's on Tuesdays, 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, and we're open now from 12:30 to 5 o'clock. We've expanded our hours. Where does our food come from? Over 95%, probably 98% comes from the Second Harvest Food Bank, and we really appreciate what they do. We also have food donated by 2 grocery chains, and we get frozen meat, fresh vegetables, and fruit. And we actually get to choose. The person that, it's really through Crisis Control Ministries. They pick up food on the Tuesdays where we have our pantry, and we get to pick out the fruit, the vegetables. We know what folks will eat, and we know what they won't eat. And so our role at the end of the day, our goal is to have nothing left as far as the food. We also have donated food, which comes from the school, from the church, and from the temple. We can do personal items. We have toothbrushes, soap, toilet paper, shampoo, things like that we give. The other services. We do backpacks filled with school supplies for all the children from kindergarten to 5th grade, and they actually get to pick out the backpack that they want. We provided over 60 this past year. We have recipes based on foods we provide in our pantry, and there's very simple things. They're healthy. A lot of them we're taking from the Second Harvest Food Bank food guide. We did get some grants initially, but we're not really even looking for grants now. I felt that it's either sustainable or it's not. And so that we have donations from the temple, and that is how we did it. We had our first year's funding before we even started. The church puts it in their budget. We actually have funds for the next 5 years. So it's been just a great support. We've never, thank you. We've never even done a fundraising. It's just really for special occasions. Implementation. There are 2 volunteers from the temple, 2 from the church. I'm the co-manager for the temple, and then Don Nelson is the one for the church. We don't count ourselves, so even in a worse scenario, if nobody showed, we could run the thing. But we've never had a problem with people showing up. The volunteers, they're signed in. It used to be by hand, now it's electronic. The real advantage of the electronic registration is they get a card and they can go to any pantry. There's over 50 pantries in Forsyth County, so they can go to any pantry they want to, and particularly after their child finishes 5th grade when they would not be eligible, they have that access to the other pantries. We're open on 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. As I said, we started at 2 to 4. We tried mornings. It didn't work as well. We do drop-off and pick-up times for the school. But now we've expanded to 12:30 to 5 to make it accessible for the working moms and dads who can just come during their lunch hour. If they want us to, we'll fill their bags for them. But we are a client choice pantry. They get to shop for what they want. Okay. They receive an average of 5 to 6 large bags of food. That's 60-something pounds. We divide it into small families, 4 or less, 5 and above is a large family. Anywhere from 60, 65 pounds to 90 to 95 pounds is what they get. They get a lot of food. The population served, we started with 20 families. We're now in our 4th year. We're now averaging 35 to 40 families a month. That's over 150 children that we serve a month. We say you can come once a month, but if someone has a need, they come every couple of weeks. There's nothing said, no problem at all with that. So what kind of impact? When we first opened, we were the first, but then now 6 additional food pantries for schools in Forsyth County. And we have formed a collaborative, and we meet a couple of times a year. We just met a couple of weeks ago, and we share our experience, and we encourage others, and we'll do anything we can to help anyone else open a food pantry. That's really our goal. So I want to close with a quote from Helen Keller. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. I will not refuse to do the something I can do. So I think we need to stop talking about what we can't do and talk about the something we can do to prevent childhood hunger. Thank you.
Panel, thank you so much. So I hope that in some small way we've started to show you that although the school systems are relied upon quite dramatically, you know, we call on you in so many instances to support the children and the families in your communities. We want to start the message and continue the message that you're not doing this alone. There are organizations out in the community. If you cannot start a pantry on site yourselves, if you cannot do an after-school program yourselves in the school, there are those out there who are willing to help you and are wanting to help you. So please just reach out to them either directly or through the food banks, and you know, we'll make it happen together. Thank you so much.